Hello! Today we are going to be learning how to make animation for our sprites in Scratch. This will make it look a lot more fluid when they are moving, and it won't look as awkward. For this to work, you will need to have an account on Scratch already. You can do this by signing up on scratch.mit.edu. Before you watch this video, I highly suggest that you watch the previous video to learn how to make your costumes and backdrops in Scratch. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. On to the video! To start, we are going to need to add more costumes to our sprite. Right now we have this one called Avery Walking C. To add more, we can click on this face down at the bottom and go to Choose a Costume. Now, if we scroll down and find the sprite we already have, we can see if they have more similar sprites like that to use for the animation. In this case, there are. But if one of the animations you want to make is not included with these costumes, then you are going to have to manually draw a new costume. But for our case, there is one. So we can go ahead and select one. And now we have two separate costumes for our sprite. With these two costumes, we will be able to switch between the two to make it seem like she's walking and to imitate motion. To do this, we are going to need to add more code to our sprite. We can start by going to the event section and going to when green flag clicked. If we drag that on over here, then it is active. Then, if we scroll down to the control section, we can grab this forever loop. Now, we can go to the looks section and add this button here. Switch costume to Avery Walking A. We're going to need two of these, and let's go ahead and put them inside of our loop. Now, let's change them so that they're the two costumes we need, rather than them both being the same costume. We can do that by selecting on this bubble here. Then, by clicking on the other one, we have now two different costumes, Avery Walking A and Avery Walking C. Next, we can go back to the control section and grab this wait 1 second. If we drag this on over between our two things, it will make it so that it's not instant and that there's no change visible. We should also add one on the end so that the transfer from this second block to the first block in the forever loop is also not too fidgety. To test how this works, we can click on this green flag button here. As you can see, it makes it look like she's walking, but the animation is really crunchy and not that fluid. We can change that. To change this, we will just need to be adding more costumes in between to make the motion more fluid and realistic. Thankfully, in our case, the Sprite Scratch menu has a bunch of these already installed. For example, Avery Walking B and Avery Walking D. Let's insert both of these. Now, we can look at our code and integrate that into our sequence here. To do this, we can right-click on where it says Switch Costume to Avery Walking C. Then we should get this small menu here. Let's go ahead and hit Duplicate. Now we have two pieces of the same code. One of them is in your hand. We can go ahead and put this underneath the other piece of code, so then it's more fluid. But we still have to change what these costumes are. So for the first one, we can change it to Avery Walking D, and for the second one, we can change it to Avery Walking B. Now, if we play it, we can see that we have all of the different costumes we need, but they're all out of order. To fix this, we're going to need to separate all of these different chunks. Now that we have this, we'll drag Avery Walking A to the top, then Avery Walking B, then C, and then D. Now, if we look at our sprite, we can see that they're all in the correct order, but it is too slowed down. To fix this, we can change the amount in these wait seconds buttons. For example, I can change this from wait 1 second to wait 0.2 seconds. And same for the rest of these. This will make it so that the animation goes faster and is less crunchy like it is right now. Now, when we hit the play button, we can see that it actually looks like she's walking. We now have her animation, but it's weird because she's walking all the time, not just when she's actually moving. To change this, we can add this if button here. If we drag that inside the forever loop around everything else, we get it so that we have forever if condition, then she will only change costumes. To do this, we will need to put all of these different arrow key conditionals into this one slot. But there are 4 of them in only one slot. So unless we want to write this code 4 times, then what we can use is this operators section in green. From here, we can grab the OR button. We're going to need 3 of these total. We can put them in this formation where they're stacking on top of each other so that we have a total of 4 different slots. Then we can put this whole thing inside of the hexagon here. Next, we can duplicate all of these different conditionals and put each of them in one of these holes. For example, I'll put the right arrow in the rightmost hole, the left arrow in the next one, the up arrow, and then finally the down arrow. Now we'll have it so that this code under here for the costume movement will only be triggered if any of the arrow keys is pressed. Now we can test it. Let's see what happens. If we're not touching our arrow keys, the girl is not changing costumes. But as soon as we start pressing the arrow keys, she's changing costumes. Well done! You now have animation for your sprite. In the next video, we'll teach you guys how to make a non-user controlled sprite. Basically, a sprite that isn't controlled by the person playing.